The life she carried quietly, woman. Zahra was 60 years old when she finally began to understand the true weight of silence. Not the peaceful kind that comes after a long day. Not the silence of a sleeping home, but the kind that wraps itself around you like a cold blanket, whispering that no one is coming, no one is calling, and no one remembers. Her life had not always been this way. Once her home had been a place filled with warmth and laughter. There had been the sound of pots clashing in the kitchen, her husband's deep laugh echoing through the hall, her son running back and forth asking childish questions. Once she had a family that colored her days with noise and chaos. But now, at 60, her days stretched like long, empty roads with no footsteps behind her and no voices ahead. The house at the end of the lane. Zahra's house stood on the last street of a small, aging neighborhood, a place where roofs sat slightly from years of monsoon rains and paint peeled off like tired skin. People passed through, but no one truly stayed. The younger generation had already flown towards cities, leaving behind the older ones like forgotten furniture in abandoned rooms. Her home was modest, a kitchen with faded tiles, an old wooden bed that creaked every time she lay down, and a sitting room with a single window that looked out onto the empty lane. The curtains near the window were worn, thin from being pulled open every morning and closed every night, a ritual she still followed with discipline, even though nothing really changed outside. Each morning Zahra made tea for two. 1 cup strong for her, the second cup mild, just the way Amir had liked it. She placed his cup across the table, letting it sit there while the steam slowly died. She knew he wasn't coming back. Death was final, immovable, but the ritual made her feel like he was still part of her morning. Her husband had been gone for 7 years, 7 long, quiet years. 2 lost in her own home. In the early years of marriage, Zahra had been full of energy. She had big dreams, a lively home, a loving husband, a son who adored her, and old age spent surrounded by grandchildren. She imagined evenings filled with stories, festivals celebrated with crowded rooms, and the pride of watching her son grow into a man who would never forget his roots. But life rarely listens to our expectations. Her husband Amir had been a good man, but life had taken him early. 2 strokes, 1 surgery, and finally a heart attack that left Zahra standing alone at the hospital window, watching the rain fall on the parking lot. There were letters Amir had written her when they were young, pages filled with tenderness and clumsy poetry. She read them slowly, her fingers tracing the faded strokes. There were photographs of Rayan at every stage of his childhood. His first birthday, his first school uniform, his first trophy. Zahra held the pictures close to her chest, closing her eyes as the memories washed over her. Sometimes she whispered, "Where did it all go?" She didn't cry every night, but on certain nights, the lonely ones, cold ones, festival nights when fireworks echoed in the sky, tears came without being invited. Old age was not frightening, she realized. It was the loneliness that hollowed her, the feeling of being forgotten by those you once lived for with every beat of your heart. 5. A letter arrives. One winter morning, as Zahra stepped outside to get milk, she noticed an envelope in the mailbox. Her heart gave a small, helpful jump. Mail rarely arrived for her anymore. The envelope was stamped from overseas. Her hands trembled. She tore it open carefully, afraid to damage whatever was inside. A letter from Rayan. She sat down on the doorstep and began to read. "Dear Mama, I hope you are well. I know it has been long. I'm sorry I haven't called. Life has been busy." The first lines were typical, polite excuses, distant updates. She read on, eyes steady, emotions locked away like she had trained herself to do. But at the end, one sentence broke her composure. "I know I haven't been a good son. I'm sorry, Mama. I miss you. I really do." Tears fell on the paper before she could stop them. For years she had waited simply to hear him say sorry, to acknowledge the distance. She didn't need an apology to be whole again, but she needed to know she wasn't forgotten. She folded the letter gently and pressed it to her heart. That night, she slept a little easier. 6. Unexpected news. The next few days passed in an unusual glow. Zahra felt lighter as she brewed her morning tea. She even hummed an old song Amir used to love. She fed the cats with extra portions, smiling as they rubbed against her feet. But life, as always, had a way of surprising her. 3 weeks after the letter arrived, another envelope appeared. This one was heavier. Inside was a ticket, a plane ticket, a ticket to come visit him. Her breath stopped. For years she had imagined seeing Ryan again. Imagined the moment he would return. Imagined their reunion. But she had not imagined this, him asking her to come. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The thought of traveling alone scared. She was 60. Her back hurt on long bus rides. How would she handle airports, lines, questions, strangers? But then she thought of her son's face. She thought of the empty chair across her dining table. She thought of the lonely birthdays and missed calls. She whispered to herself, I want to see him again. But fear held her ankles like heavy chains. For 3 nights she barely slept. She packed and unpacked her suitcase 3 times. She asked herself if she was foolish to hope again. Finally, she stood in front of the mirror and studied her reflection, the lines on her face, the gray streaks in her hair, the sadness that lived quietly behind her eyes. And she said softly, I deserve happiness too. The next morning, she booked a ride to the airport. 7. The journey of a lifetime. Airports overwhelmed her. The crowds moved quickly, speaking fast, carrying heavy luggage. Security checks frightened her, but the staff helped her kindly when they saw her confusion. On the plane, she stared out the window as the ground pulled away. It felt unreal, like a dream she had entered by accident. During the long flight, she thought about everything her life with Amir. The years of loneliness, her hopes for the future. Would Ryan look older? Would he hug her? Would he regret the years he stayed away? When the plane landed, she clutched her bag tightly and walked into the arrival hall. And there he was, standing with a worried expression, scanning the crowd for her. When his eyes met hers, something in his face broke. Guilt, longing, love, all at once. Mama, he whispered as he rushed toward her. Zahra didn't realize she was crying until he held her in his arms. I'm sorry, he said over and over again. I should have come sooner. I should have been here for you. She held his face in her hands and replied gently, You're here now. That's enough. Healing old wounds. The days that followed were a slow, beautiful healing. Ryan took time off work to show her the city. He cooked her favorite meals. He walked with her in the park, guiding her gently over unfamiliar paths. They talked about everything, her life alone, his struggles abroad, the years they couldn't get back. But Zahra never blamed him. She simply savored every moment, every conversation, every smile. She met his friends, saw his apartment, slept peacefully in a warm room that smelled faintly of cinnamon and lavender. One night, as they sat on his balcony watching the city lights, Ryan said, I want you to stay with me. Mama, don't go back. I'll take care of you. Her heart warmed, but she shook her head gently. I can't leave home forever. Your father's memories live there. My life is there. But I will visit often, and you. You will come home too, won't you? He nodded firmly. I will. I promise. Zahra believed him. For the first time in years, she truly believed him. 9. Home again. When Zahra returned home 2 months later, the street looked the same, but she didn't feel the same. The silence in her house still existed, but it no longer felt heavy. Her mornings were still quiet, but no longer empty. She still made 2 cups of tea. But now the second cup carried hope instead of sorrow. Every week, Ryan called her. Video calls, long conversations, new plans. He sent her pictures of his meals, his office, the park he knew she liked. He asked about her health, the cats, her neighbors. He made her feel visible again. The loneliness that had once filled her life slowly shrank, replaced by warmth she thought she had lost forever. 10. The woman she became. At 60, Zahra realized life could still surprise her. That sadness was not permanent. That love could return even after wandering far away. That old age did not mean endings. Sometimes it meant beginnings. She began sewing again. Started attending a small ladies' circle at the neighborhood center. She planted flowers in the small patch outside her home. She wrote letters to Rayan, which he kept on his desk. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was alive again. And one evening, as she sat by her window watching the sun fade into soft shades of gold, she whispered to herself, "I'm not sad anymore," because she had found something she thought she had lost forever, a reason to hope.